Hello, my name is Melissa Daniels and I have Strabismus. And on this channel, we talk all about different solutions and options for getting your eyes to not only be straighter, but also working better together. One of my favorite topics is vision therapy. And today I'm going to talk about some of the different exercises that you might think are pointless or weird in vision therapy and why they're actually so beneficial, especially for strabismus. Before we jump into that, be sure to go over to learn.strabismussolutions.com or just scan this QR code. Over there, you are going to get access to a lot of different resources that I offer. You can take one of my courses, sign up for a Zoom call, get one of my downloadable PDFs, and quite a bit more. I remember when I first started vision therapy, I was expecting to do all exercises with red and green glasses and different things that are going to help me develop depth perception. And so when he started asking me to roll around on the floor or stand inside of a moving ball or wear weird glasses and toss bean bags, I felt frustrated. I thought I was wasting my time and money and that it wasn't as effective as it could have been if he had focused on basically fusion exercises the whole time. And while I do think that with strabismus, a large part of the session should be dedicated to fusion, there are other things that are so important and so foundational that maybe don't make sense. And that's why I want to talk to you about them today. First thing I want to talk about is yoked prism. So yoked prism is it's a type of glasses or goggles that you put on. And as you can see, this glass is a prism. So with yoked prism, you have both prisms going the same direction. So with these, you can switch the prism. So I probably won't be able to do it on this video so that you can see it, but you can twist this around so that the base is the tall part, can be facing any direction. And then both sides you point the same way. So either it's going to shift everything to the left, everything to the right, up or down. And these are such a powerful tool. And I spent so much time in my first, actually in any vision therapy appointment, wearing these and tossing bean bags. Sometimes I was picking bean bags up off the floor, tossing with the doctor, juggling, passing them around my back, trying to launch them into buckets and get them in with accuracy. And I just didn't understand why, really. But early on, I noticed that on the days that I was wearing those glasses, my brain was so tired afterwards. I thought it's doing something, but I don't know what. The thing that is so amazing about yoked prisms is that while you're wearing them, your brain has to completely recalibrate. Every time that direction is changed, your brain is like given another shock, and then you have to adjust to it. And then another shock, and you have to adjust to it. This is increasing that neuroplasticity of your brain, teaching your brain to be flexible, to roll with it, to make those changes, right? It's amazing to watch as somebody is doing, tossing a beanbag with these yoked prisms. And let's say that the yoked prism is set to shift everything to the right. At first, they'll be tossing the beanbags and they'll go to the right of the target, the basket every time. But then after a couple, the brain adjusts and you can get them into the center again. And then you switch them a different direction and then you throw it the wrong way again. And it's amazing to see that change. You also will see shifts if like someone has double vision or difficulty like walking straight. The yoked prism is like amazing. It's like a reset for the brain. And with strabismus and vision therapy, a lot of times we need that reset. Another unique way that the yoked prism can be used, especially for strabismus, is if you have a midline shift. So most people, the middle of their body is the middle, right between their eyes, right? And the eyes kind of help keep track of where that center is. Well, with strabismus, oftentimes we have a favorite eye or a weak eye. So for me, I use my left eye. That's my dominant eye. And it's not just a dominant eye, it's like a dominant eye. And then my right eye, not so much. Now, when I first started vision therapy, when the doctor would check my midline, he would stand in front of me and he would move the pen over and I'd be looking at the doctor and he'd say, okay, tell me when the pen is exactly in the middle. So he'd move it over, and then I'd be like, okay, now it's in the middle. Okay, maybe more like this. Now it's in the middle. And he'd be like, okay, and he'd come from the other direction. Tell me what's in the middle. Tell me what's in the middle. Okay, now. And he'd come all these different directions, and I consistently thought that this was where my middle was. So my midline was over here instead of in the middle. And so for months and months, I would use these prisms and I would The way they do it for midline shift, you don't need to know all the details, but essentially you like shift the world towards where you think the middle is and then away. And over months of doing this, I got it to where my midline is actually in the middle now. And this is so important. You can imagine that having your center be centered for strabismus is going to be really important for getting those eyes working equally, for getting that both sides of the body and the brain all coordinating together. So important. It can also improve posture and balance and just overall visual function to have that midline in the center. So that's another thing that you may not know as you're tossing those bean bags and you're like, why am I doing this? They may be working on shifting your midline without even telling you. And so, something I do all the time. Okay. The next weird exercise is primitive reflexes. I hated doing the primitive reflexes and I just did them because my doctor told me to, but I didn't understand why. Let's just start. Primitive reflexes are these automatic involuntary movements that every single baby is born with. And these are there to like help keep them safe. Things like the startle reflex when they're scared and they throw their arms out, or when they put something in their hand, they automatically bring it to their mouth. They also there's a lot of different reflexes that are just there to keep them safe. And if everything's going well, these naturally fade as the brain is maturing. Sometimes though, especially if, for me, my eye was like crossed way in, like my body didn't feel safe because my vision wasn't giving good information. And so I didn't integrate those reflexes remained present in my body. So even though those are supposed to naturally go away, they didn't. There's a lot of different reflexes. There's maybe like 5 or so main ones. And they can affect vision. So like the moral reflex, that's like the startle reflex, that can cause like hypersensitivity to movement and it can make it difficult to focus. The TLR reflex, this one can really affect balance and depth perception, which obviously is really important. The ATNR reflex is one that is really involved with like eye tracking and are you able to move those eyes properly. So these different reflexes, they're like, I've heard it explained as like a Jenga tower, right? And you're trying to get the depth perception and you get those red and green glasses and those fusion exercises, those are all like the top of the Jenga tower. But if you've got all these missing pieces in the bottom and it's like this empty tower down here, those are all the primitive reflexes. And you need those all filled in so that everything else can kind of be sturdy and it's the foundation. So these primitive reflexes are so important. I know they seem like a pain, but they are actually really quick. So take the 2 minutes a day, do your primitive reflex work. It's going to take a long time. And you just do those things and you will feel that difference and that change as your body. It kind of helps also take your body out of that fight or flight mode, right? Like that, I have to protect myself and to be like, we're okay. We are safe in our world. The last thing I want to talk about as far as weird or seemingly pointless vision therapy activities go is the Marsden ball. Now, the Marsden ball is just a ball on a string, and there are a lot of different exercises that you might do with this ball when in a vision therapy office. So there are some that seem obvious, like you move the ball and you track the ball with your eyes. I think we can all agree we need good, solid eye movements in both eyes. This is going to really help function, depth perception, all the things, right? So tracking the ball, people never seem to argue with that. Watching the ball come forward and back, tapping the ball, that's all like working on depth perception, right? And I think we can make sense of that. One that always got me with the Marsden ball is when the doctor would turn it around in a circle, like so, and my job would be to walk into the circle and then out. I wasn't watching the ball at all. I was actually just aware of it peripherally. Sometimes he'd have me step out to the side, come back in, step back. And honestly, I just couldn't make sense of what this was doing. After working on it for a while, I started recognizing some major benefits from doing this. One of them was picturing the ball as it moved around me, picturing it in that space behind me, in front. I wasn't looking at it, but peripherally just being aware of the ball, even when I couldn't see it. This one was really good for me as I was working on peripheral and being aware of space. One he would always say, "Do you think you're standing directly below where it's attached to the ceiling?" And I'd be like, "Oh gosh, I don't know." And so I'd have to watch it go around and have to really think about that and make adjustments and then look and see. And that really helped me gain that awareness of space. So it felt kind of weird at first, but eventually it was like, oh, this is all about teaching my brain and body how to occupy space and picture things that I can't see. So that one was also so good. Like huge breakthroughs for me on that. There are a million other activities of vision therapy that you might be like, this is weird or childish, but I promise there is a purpose behind every single one of them. And it is going to help your brain, whether that's working on visual memory or perceptual skills in your brain and your brain making sense of what it's seeing, or space, or just so many different things. Usually, those ones that don't make sense are working more on the foundation and building that foundation, the bottom of that Jenga tower, so that you are able to do those more difficult high level skills like fusion. I know it can be so hard when you're in it. You want it to go fast. You want to do all the fun flashy exercises, and those ones are helpful too, but just know that these exercises aren't pointless. They're not a waste of your time. They're building a foundation. And so if you can really engage and really just embrace whichever exercise your doctor is having you do, I promise it is going to help you get those results so much more quickly. Good luck, and let me know in the bottom what you think the weirdest exercise you've tried is, and we will see you in the next video.